Okay, it's right about 7, so I'm gonna go ahead and start recording now. How's everyone doing?
Tired.
Doing good.
Tired? Yeah, I feel you. So, so how'd you guys? So I know that last class you guys already learned the beginning of decisions. So how much did you learn today?
We got all the way. We're starting loops on Thursday.
You're starting loops on Thursday?
We just learned about Boolean and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Huh?
We just learned about Booleans, such as like true and false statements and De
Oh,
Morgan's
true,
law.
false. Okay, that's
Yes.
okay. So when I was looking at assignments, I noticed that week 3 material is going to be due 5 p.m. Thursday. So I went ahead and chose which labs of these groups that I want to do. So I take it most of you have already done or at least tried to do the Zybooks material over the weekend for week 3. More or less.
A
little bit. Yeah, because I noticed that this is due 5 p.m. of Thursday. Now, normally what I would do is go over these sections with you, but we already agreed that we should do that over the weekend. And since this is due 5 p.m. Thursday, we should go straight to the lab material so that no one's behind. But decision trees, it's really not that difficult. So we can just go ahead and get started now. So is everyone on Zybooks, does everyone see the 3 labs that I decided to unhide? Do you see remove gray, smallest number, and exact change?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right, we'll go again.
Yeah, it's there.
Awesome. We'll go ahead and get started. So I'm going to go ahead and read this out loud so you guys can understand. So summary. Oh, actually, 3.14 lab, remove gray from RGB. So summary, given integer values for red, green, and blue, subtract the gray from each value. So computers represent color by combining subcolors red, green, and blue. Each subcolor's value can range from 0 to 255. Thus, 255, 0, 0 is bright red. And then the tuple 130, 0, 130 is medium purple because it's half red, half blue, right? The tuple 0, 0, 0 is black. And then 255, 255, 255 is white, right? So, so given the values for red, green, and blue, we have to remove the gray part, right? So if the input is like this, so we have 130 for red, 50 for green, and 130 for blue. If we're trying to remove the gray part, what we need to do is find the smaller number of the 3 numbers and then subtract that from each of the 3 numbers. So between 130, 50, and 130, the smallest number is 50. So we have to subtract 50 from each of the 3 numbers, giving us the output 80, 0, and 80, right? So this looks like a very simple lab. In fact, I like it a lot. So to go about doing a lab like this, how would we start it? Well, the obvious thing is to declare our variables, right? It looks to me like we're going to need 3 ints. What do you want to call these ints?
Red, green, and blue.
Yeah, red, green, and blue, right? So we'll have int red, semicolon, int green, semicolon, and int blue. Like that. See? Now, wait, it is red, green, and blue in that order, right? Yeah, it is. Okay. Okay, so what's the next step? We would just prompt the user to see in those 3 values, right? So we'll say see in red, green, so 3 integers will be taken. The first one will become red, the second one will become green, the third one will become blue. Okay. Okay, so up until here, it's very simple. It's this point where we're going to start implementing our decision-making trees, right? So now that we're here, what's our next step? We need to find out what's the smaller of the 3 numbers. Does anyone have a suggestion on how we're going to do that? Anyone? We all learned this like just recently, right?
Few if statements.
Yeah, with an if statement. So there's going to be 3 scenarios, right? One of them is going to be true. Either the red value is going to be the lowest, the green value is going to be the lowest, or the blue value is going to be the lowest, okay? So we're going to have to make an if statement with 3 branches. So the first one's going to be if, and this will be the scenario if red is the lowest. So if red is the lowest, how do we check if red is the lowest of the 3?
We check if the lowest of 3 by having 2 and comparisons.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So probably best by putting red less than green, and then the double ampersands, red less than blue.
Right. Good job. So, so inside of this if, inside of these parentheses, we need to have, as Jose Garcia was explaining, we need to have a statement in here that can be interpreted as either true or false. So this statement here, it actually has 2 statements, this one and this one. And in order for...
Would we also use it? Sorry, would we also use an else statement if it turns out to be false? Like the different conditions, like green is more than blue or green is more than red, to execute it, this branch doesn't execute?
Yes, we do. We need to make those eventually. So if red is the lowest, that means if red is less than green and red is less than blue, the lines of code inside of these squiggly brackets would execute, right? But as Valerie Mora just stated just now, we're also going to need else if statements in the situation where a different one is the lowest. So I'm going to say else if, and this is the scenario where green is the So what kind of statement am I going to put in here? It'd be very similar to this, right?
Maybe if so we're saying if green was the lowest.
Yeah.
What is green's position to blue?
I'm sorry?
What is green to blue? What is green to blue?
Yeah. Green.
Is it more than yeah.
And blue. Green is less than red. Okay. So
I do have sort of a thought though. What happens if there are two lowest numbers? Like they're the exact same lowest number, but they're both like less than, like, say we'll use example, red and green are the same value, but they're both less than blue. What would happen then?
If it's if two values are both the same, then if two values are tied for the lowest, then it wouldn't matter if we do the statement if red is lower or if one of them is the lower one or the other one's the lower one. No, the result would be the same. If let's say I had 50, 80, 50. In that scenario, red and blue would both be the lowest because they're both 50. It doesn't matter if we do subtract the red value from each of the three or the blue value from each of the three. We're subtracting 50 from all three values just the same. So it wouldn't matter. And I'm actually glad that you mentioned that. Because you mentioned that, I realize now that I actually have to, instead of saying less than, I should say less than or equals. Like that. I believe that's how you do it. Because yeah, I believe that's how you do it. Actually, no. On second thought, let's remove the equals. I have a better idea to do that.
Actually, I just also thought something. Like, if this was an actual program, like, yeah, we would have to cover this. But concerning we just have to cover something basic. I think for now, it's fine for us to first get through this and see if it works or no.
Yeah, let's just do this and see if it works. Hold on, what kind of input would it? Okay, I see. Actually, let me stop my share for just a quick second. I want to check something. I'm sorry. Okay. I think I see. So I'm gonna have another else if here. Now this is gonna be the scenario where blue is the lowest, right? in this scenario, if blue is the lowest, this would be true if blue is less than red and blue is less than green. So if put double less than. Oh, thanks for catching that. Thank you, Michael Rubio. So, and now, this code will execute if red is the lowest, right? So what are we trying to do? We want to subtract the lowest value from each of the three. So in this scenario, we would say that red equals red minus red. We would say green equals green minus red. And then we would say blue equals blue minus red. How do we feel about this? Well,
Looks good.
okay. Now I put it like this. I put red equals red minus red because it's for consistency. But if you wanted to, you could just say red equals 0, right? But you know, it's just whether you do it this way or the other way makes no difference, right? Now we would do the exact similar thing to these as well, right? So in this scenario where green is the lowest, we have to subtract green from each of the three values. So red equals red minus what? Minus green, right? And then green equals 0.
Wait, pardon me. I don't think the first one would work though.
Why not?
Just because red becomes 0 before anything, and then green would just stay the same, and blue would stay the same. I think you would have to put red last in that order.
Oh yeah, you're right. Thank you for catching that. You are absolutely right. Thank you for catching that. Okay.
Welcome.
And then blue equals blue minus green. And then green becomes 0. And then lastly, red equals red minus blue. Red, green equals green minus blue. And then blue equals 0.
I also had a thought on how to cover the additional like gaps.
Yeah.
I was we could like we would just need 3 more else if conditions where red and blue are the same and green is the largest. Red and green is the same, blue is the
Right.
largest. And then it would be blue and green, and then red is largest, and that just covers all the rest.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good way of doing it. If blue is, so you said 3 scenarios, right? where blue is the
Yeah,
largest.
just 3 more.
Red is the largest, blue is the
Uh,
largest, and green is the largest.
So it, like the way this conditional statement would likely work, it would be if red double equals sign green, and then and red is less than blue because they're the same value, so blue is still the largest.
Yeah.
And then be like copy paste with the like next to.
We also have to take into this, if we're doing it your way, we also have to take into consideration when all 3 values are the same. But that's easy. We'll just output 3 zeros, right?
Sure.
So if, now even though I like your way, I think I want to do it this way.
Yeah.
Red is and blue and green are tied for the lowest. So if red is the largest, then we'd say if red is greater than blue and red is greater than green, because now the reason why I'm putting it like this is because it would come here if the previous if statements didn't work. If blue and green were not tied, then it would check which one's the lowest, and then it would go to either this one or this one, right?
Sure.
Okay, and then in this scenario, I can either subtract green or blue from all 3. Makes no difference. Like red equals red minus green. I could use blue in its place because in this scenario, blue and green are equal, but it doesn't matter. So, and then we would say blue equals 0 and green equals 0, right? Because since they're both tied as the lowest, they would both become 0 after we subtract the lowest, right?
Yes.
Okay, this is good. I like this. So else if I'm gonna put another comment here. Blue is largest and red and green are tied. So in this scenario, I would say blue is larger than red and blue is larger than green. In this scenario, we take blue, we set it equal to blue minus one of the 2 lower tied values. I'll just pick red. And then we say red is 0 and green is 0. Right?
Yep.
And then else if green is the greatest and red and blue are tied, is largest and blue tied. So if green is greater than blue and green is greater than red, we would say green is equal to green minus one of the 2 lower tied colors. I'll choose red. And then red is 0 and then blue is 0, right? Blue. And then lastly, I have one last scenario that isn't covered. Now I'm going to use an else instead of an else if, meaning that this condition will be reached if none of the other conditions are matched true. Okay. So in this scenario, this would happen if all three colors are tied as the lowest. So if red equals blue equals green, like that, we would just say red equals 0, blue equals 0, and green. Okay. I just realized green, blue, and red are such weird words in terms of spelling. Okay. Okay, so I feel good about this. The last thing we need to do is output what red, blue, and green are now. So if we entered this, it would output this. So cout red space blue space and green line. I think this will work, right? Does anyone need to see the whole thing?
I do.
You do? Oh, let me see if I can. I'm sure there's a simpler way to do this, but it's not. And there actually is a simpler way to do this, but this is the solution that the class came up with.
You probably could have made another integer that was like the smallest value and then just assigned one value to like that smallest value, and so you only
have an intermediary value.
Yeah.
The lowest. Yeah, I probably could do that. That's all right though. Well, then this was the solution that we together as a class came up with, so I'm sure that this is all right. So if we ran this, let's see. Your program expects input.
You're in develop mode. You had there's that little box.
Oh, I see. Right, let's see. Four. So oh, I put red, blue, green. I'm supposed to put red, green, blue. My bad. Green, blue. Okay, maybe now it works. There we go. So go ahead and take a screenshot or do whatever you need in order to get this code. But we realize why this makes sense, right?
Yep.
It's good progress. So if you guys are ready to move on to the next lab, we can move on. Can I assume that everybody has this already? All right, awesome. Okay, so lab 3.15, smallest number. Now that I think about it, I think that this lab should have been listed first before the other one, because this one's simpler. But write a program whose inputs are 3 integers and output the smallest of the 3 values. So it's very similar to the last lab, except we're just trying to find the lowest of the 3 numbers, and not do anything beyond that. In the previous lab, we were subtracting the lowest number from all the other numbers, right? So because it was so similar to the last one, I'm going to let you guys tell me what to write. If a brave soul is willing to say some code.
We initialize 3 integers again?
Yep. What do you want to call these 3 integers? You would just want to call them A, B, and C?
Yeah, that's perfect.
That's what I would do, yeah. Int A, int B, int C. And then we would see in each of the 3, right?
Yep.
A, B, C. And now we're going to have to make another if statement block of code, right? So we're going to say if. Now I picture 3 scenarios, right? If A is the lowest, B is the lowest, or C is the lowest. So if A less than B and A is less than C, we would see out A, right? Now let's make an if else, right? If else, or actually it's else if. This is the scenario where B would be the lowest of the 3, right? So we would say B is less than A and B is less than C. If this were true, we would have to C out B instead, right? And then lastly, if C was the lowest, so if C was less than A and C was less than B, and then we would output C, right? And then that would be it.
Yes.
Yeah, this lab should have been listed first before the other one, right? Because if we wrote this one first, we could have built off this one and made the other one. Oh, well, it's all right. 8 out of 10. What we do wrong? Oh, I see. So I have a little problem here. This program didn't take into account the scenario where none of them is one of them is tied for the lowest. That's okay. I don't need to add another else statement. What I can do is just change this else if to just an else, so that actually, let me think about this.
Should work that way, no?
Yeah, I think if I remove this else, this if statement, and just made it an else, this will be defaulted to if neither of these scenarios are true, right?
Yes.
Yep. There we go. because since A, this would execute if A wasn't the lowest and B wasn't the lowest, and we just choose C. And this even works if there's a tie, because if C was the lowest and it's tied with one of the other ones, it wouldn't matter if we output C or one of the values it was tied with, it would still be the same value. So this is what we got for the second lab, right?
Yep.
So we're good to move on.
How many more labs are there? There's just one more or two more?
Just one more.
Okay.
Wait, what did you do? Mine won't work.
Yours won't work?
No.
You want to share your screen?
Yeah, and I'll keep it unmuted this time so I don't accidentally forget to unmute it.
Okay. Go ahead and share your screen. Oh wait, I think I need to. There you go. Try sharing it now.
Okay.
Also, if anyone else's code isn't working, we can.
Yeah, and then I kind of wanted to go over my other code, the RGB code, because I can't get that to work. I forgot to say that. Okay, here's my code. There we go.
Okay, so else statements don't need a clause. So on line 20, everything after the else, just go ahead and delete that.
This?
No, only on line 20. The parentheses.
Okay, so delete that.
The statements. Open parentheses C less than A ampersand.
Okay, so.
No, not on that line. On line 20.
Oh yeah. This one?
Yeah.
So we don't need that?
Yeah, because the else if statements need a clause after it because it checks a condition, right?
Yeah.
Else statements don't need a clause because this is that everything in the else will execute if none of the other conditions were true.
Oh, okay. Can I go back to my RGB real quick?
Sure.
Okay.
Wait, does yours work? Your
Yeah, I did.
Okay, good.
Okay, hold on. Let me try to make this even. Okay.
So why do you have green equals green minus red and blue equals blue minus red and red?
Where?
Lines 11 through 13. Why do
I think I was trying to, do it while you were doing it. I got confused because there's a lot of code here.
Yeah.
So should I delete it?
Yeah, delete lines 11 through 13.
Okay. And I think I need to fix some of these brackets too.
Yeah. So there should be 7 branches in total.
Yeah.
Line 46, 48, 50, should they be there?
Okay.
Actually, Miss Valerie Mora, did you get a screenshot of what we had before?
Yeah.
You did?
Yeah, I'll just try to work it on my own then, because it's gonna take like 10 years if I just try to do it.
Okay. Well, let's try to get the third lab in before we run out of time. Is that okay? Since you already have the screen share,
Yeah.
and if you
Yeah,
want,
that's
you
fine.
can ask me any questions or email me
Okay.
if you have any confusion. Okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen again. Share. Okay. Yeah, don't worry. I'll make sure that you get the help you need. Um, so of the three last labs, I chose exact change just because I looked at lab 3.16 and it seemed a little confusing. Golf scores too, but exact change. This one pertains to money and it's practical. So I think you guys would be able to solve this a little easier than you would the other ones, right? So lab 3.17 exact change. It says write a program with total change amount as an integer input and output the change using the fewest coins, one coin type per line. The coin types are dollars, quarters, dimes, nickels, pennies. Use a singular plural coin names as appropriate, like 1 penny versus 2 pennies. Now, if the input is 0, we put output no change. But if the input is 45, we say 1 quarter and 2 dimes, right?
Yeah.
So hold on. Let me stop my share for a moment. I want to quickly see if I'm gonna look at the solution and see if how dollars is gonna come to play here. Because if we're using dollars, does it want us to enter a number, decimal, two other numbers, or just one number for the cents? I'm gonna stop my share for a second, just because I'm wondering about that. Mm,
I'm guessing everything's in integers.
yeah, it wants us to put it as a whole int with no decimal. So in other words,
So
if
we just
yeah,
I was gonna say, so we just assume that the hundreds are basically dollars, the tens are basically dimes, quarters, and all that.
yeah,
We don't assume that they're going to do decimals.
yeah. So if you had exactly $4.18, you would put the integer 418. You wouldn't put 4.18. That's the only thing I was trying to check. Okay. But this lab is totally doable. I think what we need to do, well, actually, the first thing we need to do is declare a variable for the number the integer that we're inputting, right? So I say that we're gonna have 6 ints, right? There's gonna be one for the user input, one for the number of dollars, one for the number of quarters, dimes, nickels, and pennies. So 6 integers total. So let's do it like this. We're gonna have int user input, and then int dollars, int quarters, int dimes, int nickels, and int pennies. That's a good start, right? So what's the very next thing we got to do? Well, obviously, the next thing we got to do is get the user input from the user, right? So let's see in user input, right? Right. Logan James says this lab is a doozy. No, I don't think it's that bad. Like, I think we can do it. Sure, we might go overtime, but if we go overtime, that's okay. Like, this is recorded, so. So one of you told me that Amir just is going to cover for loops next week, right? Does that mean that you're just about to finish week 3?
Yes.
Okay. Because I know that this is due 5 p.m. on Thursday. I was wondering if there's any chance like he might extend it. If not, then okay. Let me. That's fine. We'll just. He won't. Okay. Okay. So cin user input like that. So here's how we're gonna break this down. We're going to take the user input and divide that number by 100, and that will tell us how many dollars we have. Now, the number of dollars times 100, that number we will subtract from the user inputs in order to get the remaining value, right? So I say user input. All right, actually, dollars equals user input divided by 100. Okay. And now we say user input equals dollars times 100. So if the input was 418, like $4.18, 418 divided by 100, because this is integer division, dollars would be equal to 4, right? And then user input would be equal to user minus dollars times 100.
Didn't the times already take precedence? Didn't the multiplication already take precedence? Because that's just a simple subtraction.
Yeah, you're right. I don't really need the parentheses, but I just put it there anyways because it's easier to look at. But
yeah,
that's a good point to make. The parentheses don't matter in this scenario. Okay, so if my input was 418, I would be left with the 18, right? So now, how would I find the number of? We covered dollars. How would we do quarters? We would say quarters equals user input divided by what value?
25.
25, right.
Side note, should this all be in the if one or no? Just because it did say if the change is 0, I'll put like no exact change.
Well, we're not going to do any if statements yet. We're going to only do if statements when we're outputting values. Right now, we just need to find out because these variables are undeclared. We need to know how many of each coin we have, and then we can start thinking about the output. Right?
All right.
So now we say user input equals user input minus quarters times what number? 25, right?
Yep.
So we would just continue this trend. We put 100 for dollars, 25 for quarters. The next one is dimes, right? Dimes equals user input divided by 10. And now user input equals user input minus dimes times 10. We repeat the same fashion for nickels. Five user input equals user input minus nickels times 5. And then lastly, we have pennies, right? But because we removed all of the dollars, quarters, nickels, dimes and nickels, whatever value we have left, that would be the pennies, right? So we would just say pennies equals user input. Because that's what's left, right?
Yep.
Okay. Now, one convenient thing about this lab is that the output is done in line by line. That is so because it's done line by line, we can actually segment this, and we can say this many dollars end line, then this many quarters end line, dimes, nickels, pennies. So let's first come up with the scenario where for dollars, right? So for dollars, we would only output X dollars if the number of dollars is greater than 0, right?
Yeah.
So
But we also have to specify the difference between dollar and dollars, no?
exactly. So the way I see it, we're gonna have an if statement with 3 branches. One if dollars is 0, another one if dollars is equal to 1, and another one if dollars is equal to more than 1. Now, Logan asks the program. Yeah, Logan says the program will mark it wrong if you output $0. That's true. But don't worry, we're gonna make an if statement to account for that. So if 3 scenarios, right? So if dollars if dollars is equal to 1, we would see out. We would see out $1 and then end the line, right? Apparently it wants it to be capitalized, so I'm gonna do that. Let me change this to a capital D. Zoom in so you can see. But then I need another scenario where dollars is greater than 1, right? So if else, if dollars is greater than 1, we would see out the number of dollars, then space dollars. Okay. Now, what about the scenario where there's where dollars is equal to 0? Now you could say this: if dollars equals 0. Now, what would I have in here? I wouldn't have anything, right? So because this wouldn't do anything, I could just erase this completely, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So this is what we would. This is the code that we wrote for dollars, right? We can repeat the same thing for quarters, dimes, nickels, pennies. So if it's okay with you guys, I hope you don't mind, but I'm going to go ahead and copy paste this since this is almost the same. So dollars, quarters, dimes, nickels. We put some space between so we can distinguish them. Okay. So instead of dollars, the next one would be quarters, right? We would change this to quarter, except if quarters is greater than 1, we would say quarters.
We put an S on the end of that, right?
Yes, thanks for catching that. And then next is dimes. So change this to dime, dimes, times. times. And the next is nickels. Change this to nickel. Change this to nickels. Change this to nickels. Change this to nickels. Doesn't have to be capitalized. Last is pennies, right? So pennies, 1 penny. Change this to pennies, this to pennies, this to pennies, capitalized. And I think that's it. Now if you copied and pasted like me, you might have to like really check to make sure you didn't screw anything up. But if you ask me, I think this program will work now. What do you guys think?
I don't think it'd work.
You don't think it'll work? Why not?
We still need an output if there's no change.
Oh yeah,
Like
you're
the
right.
instructions.
You're right. You're right. So thank you for catching that. We actually need to make one more if statement. So in the scenario where we have nothing, so
But would we just cover all this in an if statement and then just put else at the bottom and then like no exact change?
yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking too. But yeah, let's do it your way. So here's what you wanted to do, right? You wanted to say if user input equals or does not equal 0, right?
We put greater than because what if we put negative numbers?
Well, it wouldn't make sense if you put negative numbers, because how can you have negative money, right?
Sure.
How can you have negative dollars, negative quarters? Okay. So if the user input is not 0, then we would do all of this, right? So I'm going to have to put everything I highlighted inside of a squiggly brackets. So I'm going to have an opening squiggly bracket here and an closing squiggly bracket here. And then all of this, I'm going to press tab. There we go. So what we've done here is we've created a nested if statement. So if this if is true, then it'll check these ifs, right? And then in the very bottom, we're gonna do what we're gonna do your idea and put an else at the bottom and say
Else.
see out. How does it want it to say no change? Is it capital? No change with no period. Okay. See out. No change. Okay, great. So now do we think it'll work?
I think so.
Okay. Well, there's only one way to find out. Yep, it works. So if it was 45, it would say 1/4 2 dimes. If it was 0, it would output no change. It's 156, see $1, 2 quarters, nickel, a penny. Yeah. So how do we feel about these labs now?
They're a little bit long.
This was gonna happen. The labs are gonna get long now because we're diving deeper into the C++.
Can I see it all so I could get a screenshot of it?
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty long, huh? You might have to take 2 screenshots, actually.
Don't forget, there's always the recording later, too.
Yeah, that's right. I will put this recording on Blackboard. So
if that's all, it's fine for us to head out now?
Huh?
If that's all for now, is it fine for us to head out now?
Yeah, you're good. I'm sorry I went over time, but you know, I had to get this for you guys. This did take longer than we thought.
Have a good night.
All right, have a good night. Maybe next time I'll just choose 2 labs instead of 3. Does that sound good?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I'm gonna have to look at the material and pick and choose which lab I want. But thank you guys for coming. Those that want to stay because you might need extra help, or those that didn't get the screenshot yet, it's right here. Okay. But does anyone have any questions, or does anyone need further help?
Yeah, I need some help.
Okay. Yeah, I'll stay behind for you, but
Okay.
anyone else that's if you don't need help, you're free to go. So
Excuse me, Professor. Could you
yes.
go back to 3.14? I messed up on the else statement. I just want to see how you did the else statement
Okay.
for C.
Sure, I'll do
Display
that.
C.
But first, does nobody else need this anymore? Did everyone get it?
Could you go to the bottom, please?
Actually, I think I'll just try to look at it on my own time.
Okay.
Because my computer's gonna die, actually.
Okay. So
Hey.
you'll look at it on your own. Does anyone else need help? Because if no one else needs help, then I'll just end the meeting and quickly put the recording. No one else needs assistance?
Oh, could you show the 3.14?
Sure. What was it specifically that you wanted to look at?
The else.
This one?
Oh wait, no, 3.15, my bad, I'm sorry.
Okay. But hey, since we're here, since it's being recorded, I might as well look at this so that it'll get in the recording too. Okay. All right, now I'll look at 315. Smallest number. Yeah, this was the easiest of the 3 labs. I feel like this should have been listed first before the other 2.
Okay, got it, thank you.
Okay. So I'm good to end this meeting now?
Yeah, thank you, Professor.
All right. Thanks, guys, for coming.
I just have one quick question.
Huh?
I just have one quick question.
Okay.
For example, for this lab, when we write in the if and else if statements, the 2 and symbols, what do those mean exactly?
The 2 and symbols mean and.
Just and?
Yeah, it just means and. Because a single ampersand means something else entirely.
Okay.
Yeah, so we put double ampersand to represent and.
Alrighty.
Yeah.
Thank you, Professor.
And to answer your question, Nawaf, yes, this is due on the 18th. But don't worry, everything's on the recording. I will put it on Blackboard. We all worked on this together, so that's all right. So if no one else has anything, I will go ahead and stop the recording and immediately upload this. Is that good with everyone?
Alrighty, Professor.
All right.
I'm good.
Have a good night, guys. Bye.